already the fourth meeting in our series HeyU Urban Writers to celebrate the European presidency of the Netherlands. That's just around the corner here. That's on the space where all European political meetings are scheduled. And here in the Central Library of Amsterdam, we thought we have to organize some other meetings, not on politics only, but also on culture and literature. This is the fourth meeting. Our moderator, Margot Dijkgraaf, will meet today our guest from Syria. Welcome here. And a guest from the Netherlands, Anne Vegter. And this is to discuss what's going on in culture in Europe, not only in Amsterdam, not only in the Netherlands, but in Europe. After this meeting, we will have another two meetings on the 1st of May and in June. And that will be the HeyU Writers Meeting. I'd like to introduce now Margot Dijkgraaf, our moderator.
Thank you very much, Martin. Next time you say Margot, then I forgive you. Wonderful to have you here, great. I mean, it's too sunny outside, that's clear, but we have an excellent quality audience this afternoon and not a quantity audience, which is perfect. We have two marvelous guests here this afternoon. You know them probably, but still I'd like to say a few words about them. Anne Vegter and Ghayath Almadhoun. They're both poets, of course, looking at me now with their eyes. What is she going to say? Okay. Ghayath was born in the Palestinian refugee camp in Damascus. He's son of a Palestinian father and a Syrian mother. He studied Arabic literature at the Damascus University. He worked as a cultural journalist, and he published various collections of poetry in Syria and in Sweden, where he lives. He lives in Stockholm, just came from there. Told me never to go to Stockholm in winter because then you're going to die. Okay, we'll never do that again. His poems have been translated into many, many languages, and in the Netherlands, of course, Jurgen Maas. Where is he? He's over there. From the publishing house, Jurgen Maas is publishing your poetry, and your last collection is called Weg uit Damascus. Anne Vegter, you know her all. She's a very famous poet in the Netherlands, maybe one of the best of today, I'd rather say. She published many collections of poetry. I just mentioned Het Veerde, Aandelen en Obligaties, Spamfighter, Eiland, Berg, Gletsjers. And we know her a lot because she's our Gedichteres des Vaderlands, our Poet Laureate, since some time. So she's traveling a lot in the Netherlands. She travels actually daily from north to south, explaining to young people, older people, why poetry is important and why we should really read and write poetry. And yesterday she was, well actually today, from 12 to 1 o'clock in the morning, she was the NPO radio, explaining, for instance, that she really wants to create a new national anthem, which is, which makes her laugh now, but I heard it loud and clear at the radio. Give them a warm applause, Ghayath and Anne. While they are coming to well, so that we can see them, those of you who have become habitués of this series know that we always have three musical elements of this afternoon or evening. Usually there is a student from the Conservatorium of Amsterdam playing music which is, well, in a way related to the theme of the afternoon and to the writer we invite. Today, this is a clarinetist, from Finland. Her name is Maija Anttila, and I'd like to invite her to come and play. Thank you very much, Maya. Just a quick question before you come back later on. Why did you choose this music? Could you tell us a little bit about it?
Well, actually, I'm not any kind of specialist of Arabic music. I'm a classical musician from my background,
yeah.
And I'm really interested in traditional music in general, because I think like knowing a little bit of it helps me to understand also the composers from different backgrounds and the effects of different cultures in classical repertoire as well.
Yeah. And
So
you found there are improvisations that you play.
Yeah, they are like traditional themes, and there is a lot of improvisation also.
Thank you very much. You will be coming back again 2 times. Thank you. Anne, I see you have a small technical problem, but maybe your ear is open at the same time. Anna, when I asked you about half a year ago with whom you wanted to share the podium today, you said, oh yes, I know someone I would love to speak to, that is Ghayath Almadhoun. Why?
1 minute, because it's not open yet. Eh?
Okay.
It's 1 minute, yeah, there it comes. Well,
yes, yeah.
Yes, it was not hard for me to make a decision immediately, I think. We talked about it, and then I think because of 2 reasons. The first was the first time I heard Ghayath reading for us. It was like the main part of his reading was about it being not being there where things happen, the absence, in fact, and how you how you relate to what happens in your country when being on a completely different place in Europe. So that interested me, mainly because, well, I'm the Poet Laureate, and sometimes I should express my vision or something I think about the things that happen in our time, in a way like making a poem about something which is very difficult to express. And so I was interested. In a way, I felt the same, like I'm not there where it happens. I'm at home, and I should think about it. And what is the impact of words that are arising from a body that wasn't there at the moment where things happen? So how do you relate to really, essential problems like what is happening in our time now? And the second thing was, the second reason was. That you told us about your mother, and you told us, and you know, in fact, I think what I mean. There was like a storm coming to Sweden, and your mother knew, and then you called her, and she's in Syria or on the border, and then you heard things happening behind her, like bombing. You could hear it, and then your mother. She didn't complain, she just only asked, how are you? I heard there's coming a storm in Sweden. And then really, I feel very touched about that, and I just wanted to know, how's your mother?
How's your mother? Okay.
So these are the reasons.
Well, thank you, thank you. The first time I hear Anne Vegter reading my world poetry, and I say to myself, how could be somebody have this voice? It's the most beautiful voice read poetry I hear in all my life. I didn't know in that time that she's one of the greatest poets, but I say for somebody, and then I went and listened to her in YouTube, and then I told her, your voice is the best. And then I read some part of it. So you should know that your voice when you read poetry is one of the most beautiful voices I hear in my life. Oh my and then I discovered the quality of your poetry. Yeah, but my mother is good, but this is show us how it's important to understand the inside the humanity. So my mother was calling me every 10 minutes because there is storm coming to Sweden while she was under heavy bombing of this barrel bomb, you understand me? And I followed that, it's many levels. So in the beginning of the revolution it was different. Now it's became they can't hear even the bomb. And we can't hear it either in Europe in a different way. Yeah, I want only to add something. My mother, she used to the bomb, so she can't hear it. And we used to what happened in Syria, so we can't hear it anymore. I noticed this in my Swedish friend that they never mention about anything about what's going on in Syria. Even the death it's arrived to 1 million maybe, and reports speak about 260,000. And there is a denial, as I describe it always, that it's similar to what happened with the Jewish. And the only example I find in history where we're silent, it's between 1933 and the final solution. In Rwanda, it was a little different, and Kosovo was a little different. Now it's with the Syrian. People speak about 2,500 people killed by ISIS, but not millions, and systematic rape and bombing for 400 cities from 5 years. And people say, we didn't know that happened with the Jewish. And this proves that they know, because people know what happened in Syria now, and they didn't act or react. So
actually, you made me promise that we would not speak about politics this afternoon. I didn't ask one question, and you are the one who is speaking about politics.
It's hardly impossible. You can't ignore it, of course, because it is the context in which you live.
It is my life.
Yeah, of course.
It is really my life.
Is it possible to be a poet and not be political?
Yeah, it's possible in a way if it's not connected to you. But when it's connected to you, like today I was crying like a small child. I didn't cry from a long time ago. I saw horrible things in the videos and sent them from my friend who died and like this. But today I was reading the poem in the other side of Anne Vegter, because you sent it to me, and I was crying like a child, because I felt that there is a person, he understands something really important, and he didn't have this fish memory that we have in Europe. We forgot the 60 million people died 70 years ago. And when we speak about the rest of the world, we speak about something far away, or this political poetry or these things. But when I read this poem and the way Anna described how, I think she will read the poem later,
yes.
you will understand. She reminds me of a small part written by Martin Niemöller. He say, first they come for the socialist, and I didn't speak out because I am not a socialist. And then they came to the trade unions, and the same, I didn't speak because I was not trade unions. And then they came for the Jews, and I didn't care because I am not a Jew. And then they came to arrest me, and there was no one left to speak about me. And this is what Anne Vegter did, the opposite. She will find somebody who speak about her because she speak about the others.
Maybe this is the moment we are going to play around a little bit with the order we decided upon before, because now I really would like to ask you to read the other side.
Okay.
If that's possible.
Right.
I will have a look if this is
There will be
working.
a translation, and I read it in Dutch.
Just a moment, Anna, before I find it. Yes, I've got it.
So I wrote it last June in 2015, because there was a kind of a discussion. It was last week in Parliament before the holidays started, and then there was a radio program which asked me just to reflect on how we relate to the problem of the refugees, and I just could only think about how hard it is to just imagine how our lives could ever be and could change, and that we really need to do that. We need to think about it to make this picture. Anyway, that was the reason. I read in Dutch. De overkant. Het begon met grote ontploffingen bij benzinestations in het hele land. Er werd aan een gecoördineerde actie gedacht. De grenzen in het noorden, oosten en zuiden zijn gesloten. Alle verbindingswegen in het midden van het land zijn gebarricadeerd. In Utrecht brak een grote brand uit. Een gat met een doorsnede van 1000 meter in het hart van de stad geslagen. De wind stak woedend op van de aarde recht naar boven. Gevels breken, de daken rijken scheef over de straten. Kolommen stof tollen rond tussen de huizen. Iedereen wordt het zicht benomen. De mensen bewegen zich tastend blind tot buiten de stad. In de grachten drijven lijken. Er zwemmen honden die zich eraan te goed doen. Hier weet niemand wat daar aan de hand is. Kinderen hebben gezien hoe hun ouders verpletterd werden. Er liggen mensen onder puin met wonden die niemand verbindt. Bij de grensovergangen in Groningen en Drenthe staan kilometerlange rijen tot in de provincie. Kinderen, tassen, alles gestapeld in en op auto's. Iedereen wil er door. Iedereen wordt tegengehouden. In het hele land zouden brandhaarden zijn. Wie ze aanwakkerde wordt niet gezegd. Niemand gelooft in toeval. Boven Overijssel hangen gaswolken. Ademen is stikken. Protocol zegt dat de inwoners van Zwolle ramen en deuren gesloten moeten houden. Welke deuren, welke ramen, welke inwoners? De mensen willen naar de Waddeneilanden. Daar zou lucht zijn. 1,5 miljoen mensen rennen in dichte drommen. Mensen vertrappen elkaar om de veerboten vandaag nog te bereiken, maar de wegen bestaan niet meer. Het zijn brede scheuren, greppels vol brokken steen. De eilanden zijn onbereikbaar. De veerboten varen niet uit. Alle netwerken zijn uitgevallen. Staat er nog een ziekenhuis overeind? Er is een run geweest op de banken. Wie met grof geld zwaait kan vervoer naar het westen krijgen, naar de kustplaatsen. Alles. En iedereen is in beweging. De Veluwe staat in brand. Aggregaten hebben het begeven. Iedereen rent. Tussen Delft en Leiden is een groep kinderen op drift. Het is onveilig voor meisjes. In de nacht worden ze uit de rijen geplukt. Er loopt geen drinkwater meer uit de kranen. Provincie na provincie komt droog te staan. De noodreservoirs in de duinen zijn gebroken. Brabanders zouden massaal naar de Rotterdamse havens zijn getrokken. Op de Maasvlakte doen zich verschrikkelijke taferelen voor. De geruchtenstroom houdt aan. Het Rijksmuseum is grotendeels ingestort. Hoeveel overlevenden er zijn, weet niemand. Uit alle provincies zouden mensen naar de kusten trekken. Er zeulen nog steeds mensen met hun spullen. Het schijnt dat de Zeeuwse eilanden geïsoleerd zijn geraakt. Delen van dijken zijn weggeslagen. De eilanden drijven in westelijke richting. Niemand kan de krachten beheersen. Er is een onbekende troepenmacht door de oostgrens gebroken. Het schijnt dat de regels veranderd zijn, maar van welk spel in godsnaam? Waar is de overheid? Er zouden tientallen boten klaar liggen om Nederlanders naar de overkant te brengen. We zijn met duizenden. Onze boten bezwijken bijna onder het gewicht van de mensen. Er glijden lichamen over de randen van de boten. We keren boten terug, met levenden en doden. Waar is de overkant? Er is geen overkant. We drijven verder. We spoelen over de hele wereld aan. Niemand zit op vluchtelingen te wachten. Gelukzoekers, zo worden wij genoemd.
Yes. Thank you. Yeah, that's a really impressive poem, Anna. You told me that there was one sentence at the end earlier this afternoon which touched you enormously.
The two sentences in the end when she asked, when they ask, where is the other side? And the answer came like this: you don't know who answered this. There is no other side. And we are like money hunters, or we dreamers for to be rich. This is what they call us. Mm-hmm. Yeah, because I hear this about some Syrian. They really came from very, very bad situation. They were so rich in Aleppo and Damascus, and they cross Europe by foot. And I hear people say for them, oh, they came to have a good life, or why they didn't stay in Turkey. Yeah. So you can understand that we are one. Mm-hmm. And if we will leave the political question away, as humans, we speak about humans. This is something related to us, not to the borders and not to the political. This is a feeling. The poetry is a feeling in the end. So it's something you can touch direct in a direct way, and it could be understood in all the generations. And maybe some people call it politics, But in the end, it's part of our life, and we have the right to speak about it. It's remind me of my childhood. It's remind me of like the great poets I read. It let us be in one side. I always find myself with the side with the people I love, not with the people I hate. You understand? It's related us to and you know the value in the civilization, in the European civilization. I really respect it so much. I am one of the people who really in love with the Western civilization, philosophy and music and literature and like this. From Toscana, it began after Andalusia, and then it became from Toscana. No, and I always feel myself that I'm part of from this. I am part from the things I love. You understand? And this is show that it's the opposite of the right wings or the closed minds, even if they are great poets, like Heidegger. I respect him really much as a philosopher, but I can't take it that he was a Nazi. The same with Azra Bound and Juan Miro and Salvador Dali, and even more and more Adonis in Syria.
I'd like to come back to the poem, if you allow me. Anna, this is really a harsh answer you give. There is no other side.
Yeah.
Are you really desperate?
There's no other side. Well, I try to literally imagine what it would be like to have this experience of just disappear from your country, and then you just lose everything somewhere in the middle. You can't go back, and you're not welcome on the other side. So where's your other side? There is no. Yeah, right. That. I mean, even if there is a real border, and you are not allowed to have another life over there, then there is no border.
There's no new life at all.
There's no new life at all. That's what I tried to express. In fact, yeah.
How were the reactions to this poem? You heard the reaction of Ghayath, who was really touched and it made him cry. Did you have other reactions from Dutch readers or Dutch audience?
It was interesting that the newspaper, I normally publish my work, the NSC, it's a big, huge, important newspaper in Holland, didn't want to publish it.
Really?
Yeah. So
what was the reason for that?
Well, it was not the good moment.
Good.
And I found it I couldn't believe it. So, but I did already a publication on radio, so I did it on radio, and I wanted to publish it in newspaper next day or day, like that. So that's normal, the procedure, and normally. But it didn't. So there was
what was bad about the timing then?
Yeah, well, sometimes they don't have enough articles that they try to combine. When I make something, they always try to make a combination with the hot news. So, but I thought this is hot news anyway. I mean, even if there is no daily news, though there is always daily news about this crisis anyway. So they didn't take it. And then there was there's a paper, I don't know, a magazine of refugees in Holland, Vluchtelingenwerk. Refugee workers, like that. And they wanted it immediately, so they called me and they asked for it. And then there was a group overseas, like in the Caribbean area. They wrote me also the same day and asked for the poem.
And the readers?
The readers, I didn't hear any reader about it.
Well, look at you. Is it the first time you read this poem? You heard it? Yes?
I guess so.
It made you cry as well? Does it go right into your heart? Yeah. I mean, is that the reason you write poetry? This kind of poetry, Anna? You want to? What do you want to? Who would you like to reach?
There's transition since I became, well, Dichter des Vaderlands, of course, because my focus is completely different now, these days. Because when I, all my life before I got this function was, of course, being an artist, just working in language, with words, with language, and relating to questions I ask myself, but not so urgently about what is going on in the world, because I always have a certain hesitation about engaged art. I find that a difficult area to work in, because the dangerous thing is that you get too explicit, and too moralistic. And then you lose, in fact, the freedom art should give us to make our own imaginations.
But now you have been...
But now this came, and then I was really in crisis, the first, really, because I thought I don't have the gereedschappen, tools, in fact, in language, to communicate, saying things directly to the heart, because my work was more cryptic, and I really invited the people to just try to think what I was going to do, and now I had to say it directly. So, but now I am convinced it is possible, even with artistic tools, to just express your how you feel totally wounded by what's going on in the world now.
It changed your poetry.
So it really changed my poetry.
Fundamentally, yeah.
So I'm really interested in what's going to happen with my poetry when this is my last year, when I'm just a normal kid again, and then how
when
am I
you
going
will be
to
a
write?
normal
But
poet.
A normal poet, yes, a kid. But I think I cannot forget what I experienced these years, and I think it's very nice that I have now more tools. Like when I wrote theater, I did the same thing. So it wasn't really far away, but I had to make this change of mind to think, but yes, I can use the theater tools to write poems and trying to say something about what I really think about what's going to happen and what I would really like people could experience. Because like we had, that's a very clear example, when this MH17 fell down, the aircraft, right? And then I reacted almost immediately. I never did that before. And then I experienced people like me to do that from time to time.
And that you were able to.
Well, yeah. It was like not sleeping one night, and then, because you really need some courage to, express, to create a poem that is not really like literature anymore. So I had to leave my thoughts about what is literature. Shit, it's not interesting. It's not important anymore. I just have to try to make a nice poem that can really go into the heart. And it can only happen when I stop thinking that everything I should write must be really like literature.
With a big L.
Yeah, so I had to just bow my head and just bend my head and just accept that my poetry is maybe not super, but I just try to find words to communicate. That's it.
The community, the communication part is more important now.
So I feel more like a servant now, but it's fine. Yeah. I think it's fine.
Yeah. I'd like to ask you to read the first poem which we selected together, actually, which you selected. But before that, I would like to... we have it. I'd like to ask you, is the fact, like Anna just explained to us, that it should be literature or not, is that in any way a thought that is of influence to you? Or don't you think at all in that kind of theory?
Yes, sure. It's a very important question, and actually it's very deep inside the Arabic culture. What is the poetry itself mean? And we have poetry from like 1500 years, written like 1500 years, and who is the poet and who is the modern and who is the political and who is the real, not political, and like this. So the question for me, it's so simple. It came from your memory. and from your background and the things you believe in and you enjoy, to enjoy the poetry itself. It doesn't matter what you are speaking about if you really enjoy to speak about it, and if it came related to the things you touch in the life. It's always I think about the Swedish poets. I'm surrounded by a lot of Swedish poets who wrote about nature. It's a great nature we have in Sweden, and I always say for them, this is political poetry. They told me, what do you mean? I told them, you are right about the things you touch you. If you say for me that my poem about the details, for example, I wrote it about the bullet, because a lot of my friends killed by a bullet in the demonstration in Syria. And then when I speak about the things touch me and I am surrounded by death. If you told me this is a political, then what you wrote about nature is political, because you are surrounded by this beautiful nature and peaceful 200 years without war in Sweden, no colony like this. So it is like that. It's the most important things that we say the things that we believe that we should say it, and we don't care about the background of it. Yes, Edward Said, I really respect him so much, and he say everything have a background. Like everything have a purpose behind it, and the knowledge, it's not innocent. And Hannah Arendt, she speak a lot about this. And I really read some month ago the We Refugees by Hannah Arendt. It's like 15 pages, and she speak about the Jewish who arrived to New York, and they say this is Syrian. It's exactly Syrian people. It is like she began from herself, but because she's a great writer, she can reflect the others for all history. And this is make me rethink about what we call political or erotic or like this. It is not the subject itself. It is like if it's really you believe in it and it came from your memory or not.
It's very near to you, to your emotions. Yeah.
Exactly. My life, when my life became perfect, if I can say this, in the future, I promise you will hear different poetry.
You will only be writing very boring poems. Different ones. Okay.
Yes.
You will be reading now How I Became a Poet. In the translation of Juke Poppinga, you will be reading in Arabic.
كيف أصبحت سقط حزنها من الشرفة وانكسر أصبحت تحتاج إلى حزن جديد حين رافقتها إلى السوق كانت أسعار الأحزان خيالية فنصحتها أن تشتري حزنا مستعملا وجدنا حزنا في حالة جيدة غير أنه واسع قليلا كان كما أخبرنا البائع لشاعر شاب انتحر في الصيف الماضي أعجبها الحزن وقررنا أخذه اختلفنا مع البائع على السعر فقال إنه سيعطينا قلقا يعود إلى الستينيات كهدية مجانية إن اشترينا الحزن وافقنا وكنت فرحا بهذا القلق الذي لم يكن في الحسبان أحست بفرحتي فقالت هو لك أخذت القلق في حقيبتي ومضينا مساء تذكرت القلق أخرجته من الحقيبة وقلبته لقد كان بجودة عالية وبحالة جيدة رغم نصف قرن من الاستعمال لا بد وأن البائع يجهل قيمته وإلا ما كان ليعطيناه مقابل شراء حزن رديء لشاعر شاب أكثر ما أفرحني به هو أنه قلق وجودي مشغول بحرفية عالية وفيه تفاصيل غاية في الدقة والجمال لا بد أنه يعود لمثقف موسوعي أو سجين سابق بدأت باستعماله فأصبح الأرق رفيق أيامي وصرت من مؤيدي مباحثات السلام توقفت عن زيارة الأقارب وازدادت كتب المذكرات في مكتبتي ولم أعد أعد أبدي رأيا إلا ما ندر صار الإنسان عندي أغلى من الوطن وبدأت أشعر بملل عام أما أكثر ما لفت انتباهي هو أنني أصبحت شاعراً.
Thank you very much.
I would like to say something that there is the last part of the screen is cut. So,
yeah,
it's okay.
Were you able to follow it? Yeah, okay. Yeah.
Yeah.
This is a very beautiful poem, and I think it's one of the most important ones maybe you wrote, not only because of the title, but also because it's illustrating the way you make a narrative out of a poem. You are really, you have imagined a form which is very narrative. In a way, this is breaking with the tradition you are from, Ghayath?
Yeah, so somehow I always try to not pass any street where there is no grass. You know, if in the land, when you saw place where the people walk before you, the grass is dead, so you can find small street in the fort. That I don't like. Any poet do something, I run away. I go to the wild. I open my street so somebody could follow me. This is one of the most important things for me as a poet. I will never touch anything somebody touched it before me. Maybe if it's far away from Arabic and another language, if I want to inherit it, because I believe that poets inherited each other, like I do after this text by Anne Vegter, and this is, I will ask Swedish people to write it, to be honest. And I will try to let them read this in Swedish, because it's really important. But the idea that to be fresh and to open your way in the poetry, it's really important. And you are right what you say. This was people like it too much in the Arabic country, and people hate it so much and say, yeah, this is not poetry. But inside it, I understand how I became poet myself.
Which is?
I have problem with sleeping all my life. I really have suffering sometimes to sleep. And the questions of to not be able to sleep because you are always thinking, it lead me to became poet. And there is a woman have question in this. I didn't want to mention her, how I became poet. So I think she was like a depressed woman. Yeah, and my father, the books and at our home, because my father is a poet, many questions to be sensitive in the same time to be rude or frank. Yeah, and the changing in a moment when I don't want to die for Palestine, because, you know, we are teenagers, we want to die for Palestine. I don't want to die for anything now, for any reason. Yeah. You understand me? It's all this question inside me. Yeah, I somehow I find my way.
Earlier, Anna and I spoke about this beautiful poem, and I think you wanted to ask Ghayath something about it.
Yeah, very just from the text, you talk about sorrow from the 60s, and then I thought that must be a different kind of sorrow that we experience. For me, well, I was a little child in the 60s. And there was, like, my parents were like hippies, and so they fight the war in Vietnam, they fight the nuclear things, etc. But then I thought, for you it is completely different, because this is the history of the Palestinians, and you're talking about something completely different. But what do you say about that?
Yeah, because
or is it not interesting?
No, actually, you are right. The stories of these people, when I was young, and I saw them came to my father's house and sit, and I asked a question. All these Palestinians who are either work with PLO, or they want to fight, or they are really like, they were loved. You know, they are fighters. You know, this is now, the time is different now. They were fighters for freedom toward the Soviet Union and the fight in Vietnam, and people have believing in these things. And many of them went to prison several times. And I asked this question: how, like, you go to prison? My friend Faraj Birakdar, he lives in Sweden now. He's a poet. He's a Syrian poet. He's a really great poet. I hope he will be translated to Dutch soon. He spent 14 years in the prison in Syria, arrested by Hafez al-Assad, the father of Bashar al-Assad. And after the death of Hafez al-Assad, they released him, and he came to Sweden. And I spent a lot of time asking him about this. These 14 years, the first 6 years of them torture, real bad torture. And I say for him, Faraj, Sweden is bigger than Germany. And I feel like in prison on it. I couldn't take it. How you stay in one room for 14 years? And he always give me clear answers about the things, because he have enough time to think about the very, very details that we will not even think about it. So this is one of the reasons that I say this is related to prisoner before, because many days I couldn't sleep when I was thinking about the story I heard from Faraj. It's unbelievable. It's to be 14 years and there's no hope that you will go out and like this. All these things take me to the deep and deep and deep details inside the human that let him survive. Because most of the people who was with him in the prison, either they let them free before their death because they understand they will die, or now they are totally crazy or sick, or they are... But Faraj, he survived because he always go to the deep place where there is the poetry. He was writing his poems on the paper of the cigarette, and they roll it, and it was published by the Pen Club during he was in the prison, because he find a way to send it to the world, you understand me? So he survived by poetry. And because that, one of the main question for me that in the beginning when I was a teenager, that I will change the world by poetry. And then I understand that this is not the goal. I want to change myself. And this is the most important thing, that to change myself by poetry, to learn new things, and to survive.
Thank you very much. I think it's time now for Maya again. Please, Maya. Maya Antila. Anna, would you please read 2 poems, all inclusive, and welcome to the Netherlands?
Yes. All inclusive. Wat wil je geven? Of beter vragen wat het laatste is wat je onthield? Het kon wel eens de moeite waard zijn. Hecht je aan boodschappen? Vandaag kocht ik doodgewone groene rijst. Ik trof een wethouder in de supermarkt die tegen me zei hoe snel het organisme zich herstelt. Ook slechte mensen overleven gemakkelijk. Ons gesprek was van christelijke aard, want overigens zijn we het oneens. Hij eet met kerst bij voorkeur in zijn hoekhuis. Ik heb je liefde genoemd, als woord en daad. En jij valt van de trap en je hoofd knapt en het geheugen stroomt uit je oren. Liefste, zwijgen verheft niet steeds. We zullen middelen moeten vinden onze eindigheid te vervullen. Keer de attracties niet de rug toe. Botsen, zweven, duiken, rollen, hangen en trilling lengt tijd. Ja?
Welcome to the Netherlands.
Welcome to the Netherlands. That's a real Poet Laureate poem I wrote a half year ago, I think. Welkom in Nederland. Iemand zei, geschiedenis zoekt naar evenwicht. De tellingen hebben ons overtuigd, mensen en mogendheden in ongelijke mate. Nu lopen de cijfers langs de wegen van Europa, vol speeksel, vol tranen, vol dringende verwachtingen. En waar zou jij op hopen? Als je verhaal, je land, je stad, je monument, je berg, je dorp, je eer, je school, je huis, je deken, je matras, je nachtrust dagelijks aan stukken werd gerukt. Geschiedenis vindt evenwicht, maar niet vanzelf. En onze harten slaan, bepeng, bepeng, beng, bepeng. De tijd om het logeermatras te kloppen. Ik heb daar inmiddels een vraagteken achter gezet. Yeah.
You put a question mark behind it.
I put a question mark behind the last sentence since yesterday.
Why?
Yeah, well, because it is of course...
To slap the spare mattress.
Yeah, to slap the spare mattress. I mean, that would be a normal reaction, I should say. Quite normal, like what our national thinker, Marlie Heyer, wrote last week in her manifest. Like a European tradition is one of that we, for instance, in Holland, we used to be a country where lots of people from different cultures just came in the 17th century, and it was normal that you would welcome them. And then what happened to Holland? What happened? It's like that, because I think it is quite a normal human reaction to say, oh, you need a place to sleep, just come, and you can also come into my house. I know there's a lot of discussion about it, and the COA wouldn't like it. They would never say just the people should do some individual things, because it makes a mess in the organizations. Mm-hmm. But anyway, to me it is like I'm so shocked. Even every time when I come to Os is a place where there would come a refugee camp, and then the people got completely panicked, and then you have to try to understand the panic also. Mm-hmm. But then at the end I can only say, how is it possible that we cannot make this
gesture of
gesture,
openness.
this big, yeah, of course. So that's why I thought, oh, I need a question mark suddenly. What a pity. Yeah.
I really believe poets, not politicians, because they reflect something very important and could touch the 7 billion who live in the world. I'm used to the lies. To hear
could you please repeat? I just can't follow what you tried to say.
I really believe the poets. I really believe them when they say something. Even if the poetry is imagination and fantasy and could be metaphors, and I'm really sometimes got tired from metaphors, but the reaction from poets, it's very, very important. I remember when I was a teenager, I read Shakespeare, and I don't remember in which one, when he go to the woman and she say for him, one of your men will kill you. I think she was mentioned, Protus or something. And he say no. When he went back home and he speak with his wife, and he told him, but I trust all my men around me. She told him, but Protus, he didn't like poetry. You understand me? So you should be careful from him, something like that. So from that moment, I began to trust poets. And the reaction from poets is the opposite of the reaction from politicians. I hear the story about a bus full of politicians make accident. And the ambulance and the police came so late, maybe 24 hours, and they find the poor worker man. He make big grave and put all the dead body. And they ask him, the police, were you sure that all of them dead? He say, yeah, some of them was shouting, I'm alive. But who will believe politicians? And poetry is the opposite. I don't know. Both of them lie. I want to say that poetry and politicians, both of them, they give you lie. But one of them honest lie and reflect humanity. And one is nothing disappear. It's go, you understand me? And this kind of poem is really important to keep us humans.
I'd like to come back to the notion of engagement you mentioned earlier, Anna, because that is one of the things you mention of the subjects you would like to discuss with Ghayath. You told us earlier. What does it mean? What would you like a poem to be if you speak about engagement?
Yeah, well, in fact, what I would like it to be is that it reminds you on, in fact, issues that have importance for everybody. So, related to memory, it should indeed work like it puts people together. Like when I talk about an engaged poem, right?
Yeah.
I find it a difficult subject, because I never thought about this before, because I always thought it is what I make is I make it in this time, and I'm related to my time.
So it is automatically engaged.
Well, engaged it is.
Yeah.
Engaged it is. But then political engaged, that's a bit different. I think that's more difficult. So to make a gesture in the direction of the society, and then now also during this conversation. I think yes. Half an hour ago, I said it is like you. I just left the idea about it should be literature, but then it is another language. And you try to find very precise examples. Like I think this one. I was looking for very precise marks of what you lose when you are pressed to leave your country. What do you lose? And of course, I'm not from the Middle East, but I have read a lot, of course, like we all did. And so I thought, what would be the most horrible thing to leave? And then I forgot the name of France. That's interesting. But anyway, I wanted to make a little monument of things you can see and that you have to leave behind. And I think these are things you need when you try to work engaged, so that there is a kind of empathic, that you can really exercise your empathy about things that happen in society. And then, again, of course, the verse should be like singing into your heart, of course. It is not like you write a journalistic part. No, of course not. So there is another
dimension,
quality, another dimension, and every subject asks for its own way of being treated, of course.
Does the notion of engagement have a meaning for you, or don't you think this is an important issue at all?
Sure, it's important. It's very, very important. And I heard about Anna that she have this erotic way of writing poetry. And one of the things we lose when we change our places is the ability to have good sexual life. Because, for example, most of the people I know who come from war now, they go to therapy.
They go to
therapy. Yeah,
therapy,
they came from war and like this. And the life itself, it's not only the physical things you miss. You miss the life itself. But you win. You win the parallel when you are in between the things. And because that people in history, especially writers and artists, they choose the voluntary exile to not be part of the place and to be part of the place. It is, if I go to Syria now, I will be stranger. I am in Sweden, I will be stranger. But I am in a parallel life that give me the things in a different way, and I can see the things from different angles. My background of reading is different than the writers are surrounded by in Sweden. I always have different opinions, but my life is related there. And this is the question we lose when somebody force us to leave our place where, as if describe it, you have your roots as a tree. But that is not the death. Like, that was really wonderful with Brecht when he left to New York, or Arendt, because I like her, you understand me. So these people without exile didn't mean anything for me. So the war itself have a good sides. And don't believe the media. Like, for example, now we speak a lot about immigrants in our media. Do you know how much the amount of immigrants in Europe? 0.8. It's less than 1%. So it's shame even to mention it on the media. And this is show that when they speak about the values, like, oh, we should save our values. But this is not value when you are against the immigrant. So this is really bad value. This is one of the bad things we should change. So it's a question of that every person have the right to express himself and choose the place he wants to be in. And I always believe that I want to enjoy to write erotic poetry with exactly the same feeling that when I write about something really touch me in my life. I don't know how to describe it for you, Margot, but really I believe that poetry is something I need to survive. Sometimes when I pass a long time I didn't read, I feel that it's something heavy inside me. Yeah, and I really appreciate, and I feel like I would like to be relaxed in my life. I can focus on the things I love, but in the same time, I want to say something could touch the wound. I remember his name, Oscar Maria Graf. He's a German writer. And when Goebbels decided to burn the books in 1933, 1934, and I think the New York Times, they published the names who burned, and he didn't find his name. He was so angry. They didn't burn his book. And he wrote a long article, and the year after they burned him and like this. So it's really important to touch the wound sometimes. Could you imagine Nazi? They didn't burn your book, so you are accepted by them.
Ghayath, as we always do in this series, we ask our foreign writers to choose a fragment of a film. We're going to watch this now. You chose to show us 5 minutes of Paradise Now by Hani Abu Assad. It's a film from 2005. I think it needs a little bit of an introduction, otherwise we will all...
Today I know that he's Dutch, actually. My publisher told me. I didn't know that.
Could you tell us a little bit?
Yeah, this is a really problematic part because it's the moment when they film him before he go to suicide himself in Israel. So, you know, they film you, you have a message, and then after you bomb yourself on a restaurant or a bus, then Hamas or Fatah or I don't know what the organization, they will show this video.
The testament, actually.
Yeah. And in this video, in that year, it's really changed something big inside me, because he broke, inside this video, he broke the idea itself.
Okay, don't go further. Now we can have, now we can watch, and later on you can explain us why it had this effect on you, okay?
بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم. قال تعالى في كتابه العزيز: إن يمسسكم قرح فقد مس القوم قرح مثله وتلك الأيام نداولها بين الناس وليعلم الله الذين آمنوا ويتخذ منكم شهداء والله لا يحب الظالمين. صدق الله العظيم. ردا على الظلم والاحتلال وجرائمه المتصاعدة واستمرارا لخيار المقاومة، قررت أن أنفذ عملية استشهادية. لم يبقى لنا خيار آخر للنضال. إسرائيل تعتبر الشراكة والمساواة مع الفلسطينيين في دولة ديمقراطية واحدة انتحارا لدولة اليهود، وهي غير راضية بتسوية الدولتين لشعبين، مع أنها تسوية غير عادلة للفلسطينيين. تريد منا أن نرضى بالاحتلال كحل دائم أو نختفي عن الوجود. لم نترك طريقة إلا واتبعناها من أجل إجلاء الاحتلال، سواء كانت سلمية أو سياسية. مع ذلك استمر الاحتلال ومستمر في بناء المستوطنات ومصادرة الأراضي والمياه وتهويد القدس والتطهير العرقي. تفوقهم العسكري وقوتهم السياسية والاقتصادية موجهة ضدنا لإرغامنا على قبول معادلتهم، إما أن نقبل بالدونية والمشروع الصهيوني وإما أن نقتل. وكوني شهيدا لا أخشى الموت، ألغي بذلك تهديدهم وأتفوق على جبروتهم السياسي والعسكري، فمرحبا مرحبا بالشهادة. أمي وأبي العزيزين، يؤسفني أن أودعكم على هذا النحو، ولكن ملقانا قريب بإذن الله. أستودعكم الله وأشهد أن لا إله إلا الله وأن محمدا رسول الله، والله ولي التوفيق. كيف؟
ما سجلتش شيء. الكهرباء فيها مشكلة.
معلش، كمان مرة من الأول.
بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم. قال تعالى في كتابه العزيز.
واقف ما اشتغلتش.
جيب مرتك تشغلها.
روقها خالد، بعدين عندك فرصة تاني تحكي وسيطك أحسن.
جاهز.
بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم. إن يمسسكم قرح فقد مس القوم قرح مثله وتلك الأيام نداولها بين يما قبل ما أنسى، شفت فلاتر مي عند المختار أحسن وأرخص من اللي عند كنازة. مرة جاي أشتري من غاد.
شو بدك تسجلها هاي؟
لا بس نسيتها كلها لمة، متأسف.
ولا يهمك.
بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم. يجب أن نستمر في نضالنا حتى يرحل الاحتلال. لم يبق لنا غير أجسادنا لنحارب بها هذا الاحتلال الغاشم.
اللهم إنا نسألك زيادة.
The point where something was broken in you. I mean, we can see now, in hindsight, of course, that it makes us laugh.
Yeah,
but there was something serious in there.
Yeah, first of all, I really believe that Palestinians should get their rights. One state solution, two state solution, 27 state solution, 423.5 state solution, doesn't matter.
Yeah.
That all people should have same rights. This is very important. No one can say for a person, you are Jewish, you can do this, you are Muslim. 20% of Palestine, Gaza, and West Bank, Israel should take her duty. They have everything. They have the power, they have the money, they have the army, they have the land, they have the support, they have the media, they have propaganda, they have everything. We didn't have anything. This is, I believe that Palestinians should get their rights. But I believe on that there's another way to get back our rights. Like I really respect what the world did for South Africa when it was apartheid, when they began to boycott and like this. And I think the Israelis themselves, they will understand with the time that it can't work anymore, and they will give the Palestinian their rights to be citizen and pay tax. But this is broke something inside me about the question itself, because I was in between. It was a way of people suicide in Israel. I'm not supported, but I didn't say clearly that I'm against until I saw this moment. Then I say, yes, I'm against this kind of like this. I want to add something. Maybe the Palestinians will not suicide if they have F-16. They will bomb Israel like they did. So it's not the question of suicide itself. If the Palestinians have tanks, they will attack Israel by tanks, but because they didn't have, they do use these weapons. But I don't believe in these weapons itself. I don't believe in the fight itself in this kind of question. I think it's to hear the story to hear our stories. Palestinian people know nothing about what happened in Europe. These 500 years of anti-Semitic, they know that these people came take the land. What is the background? Why Europe tried to find the solution for what they call the Jewish question in that part of why we pay the solution for these 500 years of racist against the Jewish. We didn't know all this. My grandmother is an old woman, she died. She knew that there is a family from Poland, took her house. She didn't care about Palestine, her house. She was rich, and she died alone. She didn't meet her son, my father, 45 years. She lived alone in Gaza, and she died before I met her. 3 years ago. So this is the question that this story, when I say to the Israelis, the first things they think, oh, we didn't know these details. I don't know.
So what should change then?
I think they should say sorry only. They should say sorry. France should say sorry to Algerian, Turkey, to the Armenian, Israelis should say sorry. My grandmother, in 1948, when they occupied Ashkelon, she found herself in a tent. And she grew her children until 1967 when they came, occupied Gaza, and they took her children and threw them to Egypt. So she spent all her life alone until she died, and I didn't meet her. They should say sorry for this. You understand the meaning, but not by I'm really against this way. And I think it was so clever from Hani to make this part when the moment they began to eat and
it's so clear.
Why they didn't go themselves? Why they didn't send their children to go and suicide? You understand?
sorry. Would it be enough for the Palestinians to hear sorry?
It's nothing is enough. It's enough for the Israeli to hear sorry from the German.
No.
For the Jewish, I mean, it's not like that. But at least it's like because
it's like a beginning.
Say sorry for there's 1 million refugee in that time. They left the country. Now there are 11 million Palestinians. 6-7 million of them is a refugee. So at least saying for them sorry. And look to the diaspora now for the Palestinian, even leaving Syria. It's a schizophrenia itself. They are Palestinian, they dream to go to Palestine, and now Assad attack all the camps, so they flee the country, and they began to dream to go to Syria, so they can dream to go to Palestine from Syria.
Ghayath, you wrote a poem, it's called, I think, We, and then you apologize and apologize.
Yeah.
And so is it a different kind of sorry? What kind of sorry is that in your poem?
Oh, that's a cynical one, I think.
Huh? Yeah, I arrived to Sweden
It's like, I'm sorry that you people in Europe, you can really see now what happens to us. We are sorry that we suffer. We're sorry that we have to show our sorry. So how is that? Is it cynical or what is it?
It's have really two parts. One, it's really sorry because it was the photos came from that time in Gaza between the end of 2008 and beginning of 2009 when the attack happened in Gaza. The photos was really horrible. And I saw the reaction from Swedish people because I was only 1 month there in Sweden. And the second time because it's the only way to let the people listen to you.
To say sorry.
It's like, because it's clear that this is not something in the opposite here. It's like, you should not be sorry for this. You understand me? And in that time, I was new in Sweden, and the Swedish poet Mary Silkeberg, she was making a book about what they call it in Swedish, ödeläggelse, the destruction. And she asked 17 poets from all over the world to write poems about destruction, and she made 3 poetry films about Hanoi and Auschwitz and Hiroshima. And she sent the book to the publisher house and was in the printing. The attack happened in Gaza. By chance, she was hearing me reading. She called me. She called the publisher house, stopped the book. And she called me and she said, I want you to write a text about Gaza so I can add it to the book and make a film. Because that happened in the history, that destruction, but now there's destruction now. And I say for her, but it's not a good idea to put something about Gaza in front of Auschwitz. The people will misunderstand you. She told me this is not your problem, if you want to. And I write the text, and she added on like this. And in that time, I understand that to apologize, it's something really like people so rare people apologize for anything they do, mostly. And to apologize for something you didn't do, it's even like more, but it's the only way. We try everything as a Palestinian. Nobody.
I made I'd like to finish this evening, yes, by poetry and music, if you agree with me. Would you be so kind to read Sure. Anna just mentioned, and then maybe Anna, you would like to read Island, Mountain, Glacier, and Living Outdoors in Winter.
Yes, especially the winter, because the Island. Because it is, I was thinking about it. What is you feel guilty even when you are not responsible, and that's what I wrote this poem about. So I really want to read it.
It's a dialogue between the two of you in poetry.
Yeah. Yes, right.
Yes.
But I can't find it. Oh yeah.
نحن المتناثرون شظايا الممطرين لحما نتقدم بالاعتذار الشديد من هذا العالم المتحضر فردا فردا رجالا ونساء وأطفالا لأننا وبدون قصد منا ظهرنا في منازلهم الآمنة بلا استئذان نعتذر لانطباع أشلائنا في ذاكرتهم البيضاء كالثلج ولأننا خدشنا صورة الإنسان الطبيعي الكامل في أعينهم، لأننا وبكل وقاحة قفزنا فجأة على نشرات الأخبار وصفحات الإنترنت والجرائد، عاريين إلا من دمائنا وبقايا أجسادنا المتفحمة. نعتذر من كل العيون التي لم تجرؤ أن تنظر في جراحنا مباشرة لكي لا تصاب بالقشعريرة، ونعتذر من كل من لم يستطع إكمال وجبة العشاء بعد أن فاجأته صورنا طازجة على التلفزيون. نعتذر عن الآلام التي سببناها لكل من رآنا هكذا بلا تجميل أو تقطيب أو إعادة جمع لبقايانا وقطعنا قبل أن نظهر في الشاشات. ونعتذر أيضا من الجنود الإسرائيليين الذين تكلفوا عناء الضغط على الأزرار في طائراتهم ودباباتهم لتحويلنا إلى قطع. نعتذر منهم عن الصور البشعة التي تحولنا إليها بعد أن صوبوا قنابلهم مباشرة إلى رؤوسنا الطرية، وعلى الساعات التي سيقضونها الآن في عيادات الأطباء النفسيين ليعودوا بشرا كما كانوا قبل تحويلنا إلى أشلاء مقززة تلاحقهم كلما حاولوا النوم. نحن الأشياء التي رأيتموها على الشاشات والصحف، والتي إن اجتهدتم في جمع بقاياها كلعبة البازل فإنكم ستفوزون بصورة واضحة لنا، واضحة لدرجة أنكم لن تستطيعوا أن تفعلوا شيئا.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
So I read a poem. It looks like a sort of an answer on yours. Ook als je wakker wordt boven een sterfgebied en je gespt kinderen vast als gordels. Laat mij eens door een raam kijken of het daar erg is. Zie je er niets van, want het is een diepteoorlog. Ook als een doelwit vanaf de grond toch naar je zwaait en je verlangt naar bleke sterren op zo'n voorhoofdje. Tak zie je over het oefenveldje van je grimassen en je speelt elk karakter. Ook als je naakt naar de kinderen loopt en guilty zegt, guilty, dat woord kennen jullie toch, dat je niets gedaan hebt, maar bekend. En je geeft je huid reep na reep, want het is een diepteoorlog. Ja.
And the last one.
Yeah, last one. It's a bit different. I wrote that when I have to explain when Mubarak left Egypt. It was this picture of Mubarak in the car that made me create this one. Het heet In de winter buiten wonen. We misten je pas toen je vertrek niet langer kon worden uitgesteld. Later in de dag breaking news. Dat jij kaarsrecht op de achterbank en je weigerde elk commentaar. Bestaat daar een woord voor of zou een auditie je goed doen? Er is studioruimte beschikbaar, een piepjonge coach met weetjes. Iedereen is mooi in het licht. Iemand vingert je standpunten en ik kan je bijna aanraken. Vandaag is iedereen trouwens goed in alles, beangstigend. Een paard valt op knieën in de sneeuw, zei je. Zo vinden ze me. Ja,
Thank you very much,
Thank you
Anna.
so much.
I'd like to invite Maya Antilla to play her third and last improvisation. Please. Thank you very much, Maya and Tina, for having been with us this afternoon. It's a privilege to tell you thank you very much. Thank you so much, both of you, for having been sharing with us your thoughts on poetry, on the power of poetry, and how the poetry can make us survive in terrible settings. Thank you so much for having been with us.
Thank you, Margot,
thank you, and thank you for having listened to them. Hope you will be back on the 1st of May when we will be receiving Adriaan Bosk and Nina Weijers. And I hope you will be ready to sign books and to... Yes, you will. Atheneum Bookshop is selling your book, so thank you very much.